So here we go. As promised, the countdown of my 64 favourite albums of all time. Was chosen from my album collection. So over the years, I've collected these, played them, and yeah, these are my favourites. Difficult to put into the sort of right order, but let's have a go. So today we're going to do 64 through 61, just 4 albums, and then that gives us a straight of 5 per every 5 days right up to my birthday. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm 64 in 64 days time. So in honour of the sort of Beatles song When I'm 64, I thought when I'm 64 I need to have told, if only myself, one of my favourite albums, and sort of why as well. So yeah, if you want to leave some comments below, please do. Got 2 or 3 people watching for this eagerly, I think, for their favourite albums to crop up. So we'll see how we go. So first one, I'm not going to show you for a second, but then I'll reveal it. It was in the 80s, and in the mid 80s I'd be about 30, and so the 80s was a bit of an odd decade for me. I was working very hard, doing a lot of overtime, and the early 80s was sort of post-punk, if anybody lived through it. And I'd liked punk, but I didn't find it musical and that original and stuff like that. It was based on copying old stuff. But what was interesting is some of the bands that came out of the sort of punk stuff, and 2 or 3 of them will make this list. You'll see them coming up. But ones that won't make the list, but still interesting: Stranglers, those sorts of bands, rather than just the thrashers. So that's that. You got then the New Romantics, which I never quite fitted in. I mean, you only need to look at me to see I'm never going to fit into the New Romantics movement. That was good. To me, it's a bit like glam rock, which I had lived through, and instead of guitars, they got synthesizers. It's very similar. It's all posing, as was the whole 80s. We got the long hair, stadium rock, anthemic rock stuff again. I mean, I've got a close friend. I was a childhood friend of Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, and he formed his band in the early 80s, I think it was. Good band. I mean, really good. It was just, I thought it was a copy of the classic rock stuff, which you'll probably see a lot of on this stuff as well. And then you've got the big hitters doing their stuff: Springsteen, Madonna, Dire Straits, Queen. Yeah, as well as I guess at the start of the indie season as well, and a number of the bands that I like were also in that indie movement as well. I mean, you can't go everywhere in 64 albums, so forgive me if I don't include some of your favourites. This is the album though that when I heard it or saw it first in '87, shook me a bit. Let me just get the glare out of this. This is called "Sign of the Times" by Prince. If you've not seen it before, if you've not heard it before, then you must go and get it. He'd released a number of albums before this. I think 78, 79 he started, and he had a band with him called The Revolution. He'd done films, and he was big by this point. He was a pretty big star. But when he brought this out, this was sort of some narrative. There's a bit of everything going on here. There's a bit of sort of soul, there's a bit of funk, the sort of Stevie Wonder who was likened to for his songwriting prowess. There was a bit of funk, there was a bit of jazz, heavy rock, guitar. I thought this guy couldn't play guitar, and since I was sort of played around with playing guitar myself when I was 6 years old, I thought let's learn to play guitar. You start to think a little bit more about people who play. And if you don't think you can play, get on YouTube, have a look at the tribute concert to George Harrison 2004. He plays a rendition of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, a Harrison classic, and tears the place apart. It's just absolutely unbelievable. People on the stage are thinking, where's that come from? So, back to this double CD. I don't know how many tracks are on it, but they're all different. And 1 minute you've got a ballad, next minute you've got a real screamer, next thing you've got a guitar-based thing. Yeah, all different and thoroughly recommended. Standout track, I was going to do a standout track for each one of these albums, just in my opinion, and for this one it's title track Sign of the Times. Tells a story about the mid-80s and what's going on, and the emergence of rap and AIDS. I mean, the big disease with a little name, I think, is one of the lyrics at the start, and I'm big into lyrics, so I thought it was really amazing how I got that going on. So yeah, Prince, 1987. sign of the times. Oh, one more thing about this, I forgot to say. This guy, first guy who really brought the Linn drum into the fore, and so he played every instrument on this album. Wrote 95% of the stuff he wrote himself, produced it himself, etc., etc., and he used the Linn drum, which was a sampled drum machine, electronic drum machine made by Linn Electrics. Also used on Relax. It was used on Shout by Tears for Fears. A lot of stuff in the 80s used that stuff. But it's actually real drums, so it was actually played by real drummers and then sampled using that. So I found that interesting as well. Second one is also from the 80s. This is from 1989, and this is a band that started in early 80s, 84, and the connection with the previous one is that this band called the Blue Nile, based in Glasgow, Scotland, and they used Linn Products. Linn Products was a big hi-fi company who got behind them and said, we're trying to release, if you know your hi-fi, you know the Linn Sondeck is absolutely marvellous turntable, and they were trying to get their products well known, and so they wanted to release a really good album as their first album. This wasn't it, is the one before this. I think it's called The Walk Across the Rooftops, but this one was their follow-up, albeit 5 years later, and this is so smooth, it's so good. It's not smooth rock, but it's sort of ambient electric, electronic, but it's down to earth. It is a weird thing, and it's really calming, fabulous, well played record. Guitars, there's only 3 of them, guitar, bass, drums, normally sort of thing, and standout tracks probably Downtown Lights, which was released as a single, did pretty well. Good album called Hats, album by the Blue Nile, and really, really good listen. Thirdly, we're going now vinyl, so you should be able to see this a bit better. Hopefully the flare is not too bad on that. Got about right. And this is a band called Wishbone Ash. So 1972. Wishbone Ash was started from Torquay, England. I'm saying England and stuff, Scotland, because I got a guy in Canada watching this, so he's probably not going to know where Torquay is. Two band members, a drummer and a bassist, who said we can form a band but need a guitarist. So normal story, wanted a load of people to come along and try out. They liked 2 of them, Andy Powell and Ted Turner equally, so they didn't know what to do, so they hired them both. And they said, well, let's see what it sounds like with 2 lead guitarists. The result, in my opinion, is magical. I know it's been done since, but this is about the first time I'd heard twin lead guitars. Andy Powell also played a Gibson Flying V, which is shaped like a V if you don't know your guitars. And again, at the time, it was like, what the hell's that? So, they're pretty arresting. This is not their first album. It had one before called Wishbone Ash. This one was released a double album here, was the one before this, but this is the one that finally broke them, and they had to tour the States on the back of it, nearly killed them. But this has got some amazing stuff, and they use this harmonic twin guitar approach really, really well. And one of them said, who do we go with? Who writes a song? Who takes the lead? Well, it's just, when the muse takes you go for it. And so they interleave and interplay this stuff as well. And again, it's been copied by a number of other bands. Some classic tracks on this: King Will Come, Time Wars, Leaf and Stream. But probably my favourite is a track called Blowing Free, last track on side 1. Absolutely marvellous, and really harmonic, not in terms of only guitars, but 3 of the band sing on it as well. It's not the Bee Gees stuff, but it's very melodic, not such a crazy hard rock stuff, but a real nice sound. One of my favourites. And the last one is one of 4. The last one today is one of 4 acts to come out of my hometown, which is Sheffield, England. And so you see if you can guess which ones the other ones are. this guy's sadly underrated, sadly passed away now as well. But this is him, Joe Cocker from Sheffield. Singer, did a lot of cover versions. Yeah, I just ended up doing a lot of ballads and things like that, and Up Where We Belong and stuff. But this, back in the day, 1970, I think this was out, established him as a really good raw blues singer. 3 things about Joe Cocker that stand out for me. One, I had a snowball fight with him. I'd be about 8, so he'd be about 20. Well, he didn't look about 20 at the time, looked a bit younger than that, but absolutely mullered us in the snow in a place called Crooks in Sheffield. I remember that. Second thing is, in my opinion, best cover of a Beatles song, with little help from my friends, which he did an amazing version of, and McCartney thanked him for keeping that song in the charts forever. And the third thing is, and that's connected to the last fact, little help from my friends also appears on this. Well, not this. It doesn't appear on this. It appears on this, which is the Woodstock festival in the early 70s, and he does with a little help from my friends on that. But what you want to see is the director's cut of the film. So get all the set that Joe Cocker did, and the other. I mean, Hendrix tore the place apart. So did Santana. But Joe Cocker has got to be up there in the top 3 of people who took Woodstock apart with his just power and energy and living and life, stuff like that. So yeah, Joe Cocker, Mad Dog's Englishman. Standout track on this is probably, in my mind, Delta Lady, but such a tight band, such a great outfit. What a great performance. Okay, so that's it. That's the first 4. There's another 60 to go. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye for now.